Blog Talk Radio.
It's Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, on the Blog Talk Radio Network. Once again, it's time for the most intriguing talk radio on the internet today. This is Sasquatch Watch Radio. Breaking news and information from around the world. Interviews with men and women investigating the mystery. The latest high-tech equipment. Cutting-edge research techniques. And amazing discoveries. Real-life people sharing real-life encounters. The director and founder of Sasquatch Watch Virginia, here is your host, Billy Willard. Something is out there in the dark, watching, waiting. It's time to unleash the beast. This is Sasquatch Watch Radio.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Sasquatch Watch Radio. I'm your host, at least for tonight, Mike Killen. Unfortunately, our friend and the main show host, Billy Willard, he's feeling a bit under the weather tonight. I only just found out about that myself, very quickly, just before the show came on. So I was as taken aback as all of you, no doubt, are. But Billy, he sounded really bad on the phone, and he asked me to take over the show for tonight, and I, of course, agreed, and told him, "Don't worry about it. We'll handle it, and you just get some rest." He went to lay down. So Billy will not be with us tonight. However, I'll be hosting the show, and along with me to help with the show, being that it's kind of tough to keep an eye on chat and field all the questions at the same time as talking to the guests, we have Eric Altman from the PBS. He will be with me tonight, helping out, and he's here with us now. Eric, are you there?
Hey, Mike, how you doing, buddy?
All right, Eric. Good to have you with me tonight. Definitely could use the help. It's a lot to do everything on this show, and it's tough to talk to the guest and keep an eye on chat. So I know firsthand.
I'm happy to be here, and I just found out a few minutes ago myself, so I'm always happy to help you guys out.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, and I know Billy appreciates it. So, yeah, well, it was kind of a shock to me as well, so I only just found out. But we'll make the best of it. We'll wing it, so to speak, but it'll be fine, because we have, as our guest tonight, well-known researcher Pat Rance from Florida, and Pat's been at this for quite a while, and he's got a lot of experience and a lot of a lot of stories, I'm sure, things that he's experienced in the field. So we're going to have a chat with Pat tonight, and I'm sure it will go just fine. So don't worry, Billy, if you're listening at home. We have it under control. So without further ado, let us bring on our guest, Pat Rance. Welcome to the show, Pat.
Well, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. It's good to hear your voice again, and hello to everybody out there. Hope you're all having a good evening.
We're happy to have you with us, Pat. Thank you for being on the show, and I'm sure Billy appreciates it, as do I. Now, basically, this is kind of totally unscripted here, because I had absolutely no time to prepare any real list of questions. I only just found out a few minutes prior to the show. So we'll just kind of wing it. We're going to touch on what you've been up to in the past, year to 6 months. I'll ask you what your research, where it's taken you, and what areas and who you've been researching with, and you can just take it from there, and I'll throw some questions at you on the fly as you're you're speaking on topic, I'm sure I'll come up with some questions just by listening to what you've been up to. And as well, Eric, please feel free to jump in there at any time that you have any questions at all. And if you can just keep an eye on the chat for me, Eric, I would appreciate that. And folks, to make it easy on Eric, please remember, just a reminder, any questions, if you can put them in all caps, it makes it so much easier to see in the chat room. Sometimes this chat really just gets scrolling really crazy fast, and if you don't put it in caps, it's very easy to miss a question. So that would make it much easier on Eric.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike. Thanks.
Yeah, no, believe me, I know firsthand. You can easily miss the questions if they're not in caps, especially if there's 3 questions in a row, and the one on the top and the one on the bottom are in caps, and the one in the middle, somewhere in some other, chat text, just chatting in the room is small, easily blast right past it. So,
yep.
Okay, so let's get back to Pat here. So Pat, I know it's been quite a while since I've spoken to you. On a show, anyways. You were on show Bob and I run quite a while ago, and it was a pleasure having you on. And I don't think I've spoken to you, directly on the phone since. So I'm sure you've been busy and been up to things. Oh, and speaking of that, by the way, I was speaking to Bob Coyne just prior to probably about an hour and a half before the show tonight, and I mentioned to him who was going to be the guest on Billy's show, and he said to say that he wanted me to tell you. He said hello and to give you his best regards.
Well, great. Pass along a big hello to him as well. And
all right. Will do. As a matter of fact, I think he's actually in the chat room right now, so he's probably listening.
Oh, what's he under? I didn't realize.
Yeah, he's his name is Bigfoot Quest. That's the show that we host, so that's his name in the chat. So yeah, he's actually in the chat, so I'm sure he's listening. Hey Bob, how are you? I just saw him sneak in here a couple of minutes ago.
All right. Type it in for him.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can kick it off if you like. I guess in the last year, I've made one nice trip out to Texas about a year ago. I guess about probably 5 trips up to Alabama to my main research area up there, and numerous trips to the Green Swamp and to the Ocala National Forest down here in Florida. And in between that, I'm still shaking down equipment, and I've been troubleshooting some electrical issues on my research trailer with the wiring and everything. I've got all that pretty well taken care of. And
now is that
just tinkering with my equipment, trying to make it work a little bit better, make it a little bit easier to set up and carry, and keep it out of the weather. And so I like to make, I'm a hands-on kind of guy.
Right.
So I've built a front porch that attaches to the side of the trailer out of PVC pipe and a tarp. So when I'm in a location, if it's raining or whatnot, or real hot and sunny, I've always got shade in a dry place outside. And I've made a all-weather proof housing for my thermal imager, so I don't have to put it up and take it down, put it up and take it down if it's heavy dew or rain and all that. I've reworked a couple of penetrations through the roof of the trailer so that they're waterproof and flexible, where I can extend the thermal imager up through the roof. And so just between tinkering with equipment and getting on the road and trying to do my regular job and all those things, family and everything, usually keeps me pretty busy.
Now, you mentioned Texas. Is that an area you get to often for research, or is that an area that you don't really usually get into too often? I mean, I know you do the majority of your research in Florida, and I would imagine it may be some of the neighboring states in that area.
That was the first trip. I've been through Texas on the way to Oklahoma in the past, but that was the first time I'd ever researched there, and that was real nice. The weather, it seemed like every time on an outing, especially when you're out of the area. It was a little chilly and rainy, but it wasn't too bad. So, but I usually research either Florida, Alabama, or Mississippi.
Yeah,
and I've made numerous trips to both of those other two states. I have regular areas that I research in both.
Right. All right. I see we have a caller already on the switchboard, but this might be somebody that's just calling to listen in on the show. A lot of folks do that if they can't listen to the show any other way.
Right.
I'm just going to check with this caller and see if in fact that's what they're doing. I believe they are, and if they're just listening in, we'll just mute them back out and they can listen in. And I just saw a question scroll by in chat, so I'll let Eric ask that question after we find out what the caller is. I think it's somebody just listening, but let's check. Let's pick this up. This is area code 304. You're on the air with Sasquatch Watch Radio.
Hi, it's Nancy. I just called to listen in.
Okay, Nancy, I was just checking. I didn't see the hand up, but I figured I'll check anyway because sometimes people forget to hit that 1 to put the hand up if they want to jump in there and have a question. So not a problem. I'll mute you back out, and you can hang on and listen to the show.
Thank you.
All right. If you do have a question later, just hit 1 on your phone, and it'll put the hand up, and I'll know to come back to you.
Sure will, Mike. Thank you. Hi, Eric.
All right.
Hi, Nance.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
All right, Nance. Thanks for listening. I'll mute you out.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right. Put her back on mute so she can listen to the show. Okay. Eric, did you want to ask that question? I saw one scroll by in the chat.
Yeah, certainly can. This comes from Steve Squatch, Pat. Patty wants to know, what are your thoughts and theories on Bigfoot sightings or encounters after a good rainfall?
I've never really thought about it, but I guess like every other creature of the forest, of the woods, I would imagine they'd like to get out of the rain just as much as anything else, deer or even people. So I guess after a good rainfall, especially if it's been raining for a couple of days, it's time to stretch your legs and get out and find something to eat, do their hunting and foraging. So I would imagine after a day or two of steady, heavy rain, it'd probably be a good time to get out and look, especially because, any fresh tracks are going to show up well.
Okay, there you go, Steve Squatch. Hope that answers your question. Oop. Sorry about that.
Eric's got phones all over the place.
Yeah, I'm popular.
Yeah.
Right. Let's try to turn the thing off. There we go. I turned it off. Sorry about that.
All right. Oh, and I see we have Bill Green on the switchboard. Let me pop this down quick and pick Bill up. Hey, Bill. How are you?
Hi.
I see you on the switchboard.
How y'all doing tonight?
All right, just fine. I'm hosting the show tonight because Billy's out sick tonight, and we have Eric Altman as co-host. And
Eric, how was the festival this past weekend?
It was good, Bill.
Yeah, I see you guys put some video clips on YouTube. It looked pretty good. But I got that Anatomy of a Bigfoot hoax this past week, and oh god, it was just appalling. And it was a good to nice documentary, but it just brought up some bad memories and stuff like that. And as usual, this certain person he was just my god, it's just if you guys do get it, you'll see what I mean. It's the truth, but it's not the truth, and just one of those things. But hey, Pat, are you investigating any new reports out in Florida, or actually I should say out in the Florida Everglades or other swamp areas?
No. Actually, the Everglades are about 4 hours south of me. It's a pretty good clip to get down there, and I've never really done any research in that far south. There's a lot of good areas here in Central and North Florida, so to be honest with you, I haven't gone down that far, but no, I don't really have any new sighting reports. I got a call from a friend of mine last night from another research group, and he got a report in, and he asked me to handle it for him because he's kind of busy, so
yeah,
I've got got an email into that fella, but I haven't heard back from him yet. And, if it pans out, I may take a run up there.
So do you ever get any possible photos or film footages of Florida Sasquatches?
I've gotten a few maybes with the thermal imager. They were kind of squatchy, but based on the way they were moving and acting, I'm pretty sure that's what they were. But it was at a pretty good distance, so I'm really not claiming it, even though, as a Sasquatch, but I'm pretty sure that's what they were.
So, Eric, what's new with your research up in Pennsylvania about Bigfoot, or evidence, or whatever, or sighting locations, or whatever?
Not much new as far as evidence goes, or sighting locations. We did get a sighting this past Thursday in southwestern PA, where we've had a lot of activity this past year. So, other than that, not much else new, Bill.
Yeah, Eric, did you look at that video on YouTube? It was sort of supposedly a white Bigfoot running away from some people in some woods, and I forgot the name of the video name, but what did you think about that? Did someone show that to you, and do you think it could be that one? Because I know Sean was telling me that it was a white Bigfoot seen up in somewhere in Pennsylvania in a certain area for a while there or something. I don't know. Do you know anything about?
There have been a lot of white Bigfoot creature sightings in Pennsylvania over the years, but no, I did see the video. I think it's a fake. I don't think it's a real Bigfoot.
Okay. Hey, Mike, what's new up in upstate New York? Are you starting to hear rumors of stuff happening up there, like footprints or possible sightings, or from Nezra or other groups?
I haven't heard anything directly, Bill, per se, but you got to remember, I'm 5 hours south of that area. We do have some researchers that are right up in there, but they have not let me know. So I'm assuming that they haven't heard anything either. But I'm sure that will change. Pretty much every year, there's some kind of sighting up in that area, in the Adirondacks up near Whitehall. So I'm sure we'll hear something. But the only one I know of was that road crossing at the very end of last year, beginning of this year. So but, I'm sure there'll be something, Bill. It's an active area. People are always seeing or hearing something up there eventually.
All right. Well, I'll let you guys go. Have a great show, and keep in touch.
All right, Bill.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering my question, Pat. Bye.
All right, buddy. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for calling in, Bill. Take care. All right. There we go. It's Bill Green. We all knew those questions were coming, didn't we? So, Henry May even said, and next he's going to go to Mike. You were right, Henry. Well, okay, let's see. Eric, was there any questions in the chat during that exchange? I wasn't watching. I see one
actually,
now.
I just got one from Luke Rose. He wanted to know if there's any word on audio recordings that Pat gave to R. Scott Nelson for analysis.
Yeah, a little bit. It's been a while since I've heard from him, but he was doing another blog talk show on Night Callers, I believe, and I had previously been in contact with him, and I sent him an audio tape that was collected not by myself, but by a friend of mine in the area that I research in Alabama. And I sent it to Scott Nelson, and at the time he was just getting ready to go on his trip out there to California to go on a I guess it was about a 5-day trip by horseback to the area, specific spot where the Sierra sounds were collected, because he's been working on analyzing those. As you all know anything about Scott Nelson, he's a linguist. So he was trying to analyze the Sierra sounds, come up to try to figure out some language breakthroughs on it to determine exactly what they were saying, if it is a language, and he strongly believes that it was a language. When he heard the audio that I sent to him, he was really excited. He said that he thought for certain that the audio from Alabama was the exact same language as the audio recorded in the Sierra Sound CDs almost 40 years ago. I think it was, 1973, something like that, and roughly 3,000 miles away. So he was really excited because he thought for certain it was the same language, 3,000 miles away and, roughly 40 years difference. So I haven't spoken to him in a while, but I know he was, when he came back from that trip, he was going to be analyzing that pretty heavy to try to, figure out some sentence structure or exactly what it was saying. So that was interesting.
Yeah, Scott Nelson, he's done some amazing work on those tapes. He's been poring over those tapes, and I interviewed him back in March, I believe it was, and that was when pretty much the news first broke that he had discovered, what he feels is a language in their sound. Yeah. And I'm sure he's been finding a lot more stuff since then. That was when it kind of first came out, the news first came out that he had, found these patterns in the speech that he believes was a definite language, and I'm sure he's gotten much further since then. It'd be interesting to to see, like a couple of months, it'll be a whole year since that came out. Be interesting to see how he's progressed in a year, how much more, he's
I need to shoot him a call. He had, I invited him to go with me up to my research area in Alabama, and he seemed pretty, he was real interested in going, but I've got busy with other stuff going in different directions. I haven't spoke with him, but I should give him a call because I'm headed back up to Alabama here in about, maybe a month. I try to get up there about every 6 to 8 weeks year-round, and I was up there the first of the year, so about another month or so I'll be heading up there.
Yeah, it might be good to talk to him and find out what has he learned since this all first came out. I'm sure he's much further along in his studies of all those tapes. Probably has a much better understanding and has deciphered more of it.
Yeah, I would hope so. Of course, it's there's nothing to go. There's no starting place with it, so I can't comprehend how he would go about figuring out what the language structure is and what any of the words mean, or I don't have that capacity to figure something like that out, but he certainly does. So I would think he's probably the best man for the job, and I'm glad that he's working on it. Yeah,
well, I mean, he's highly trained by the Navy, and with his background and that kind of sort of thing, and in the service, I'm sure he learned all sorts of tips and tricks, when they used to try to decipher, what was being said between the lines, so to speak, when they're listening to Intel Live, intercepted radio transmissions, etc. Eric, I think I saw a question in the chat back there.
Yeah, I saw it, but it got away.
Yeah, there's a couple questions here. First one comes from Alley Cats. Pat, Alley Cats wants to know, do you believe the sounds we hear are meant to scare us off or to warn other Bigfoot of approaching humans?
Well, I guess you'd have to take it on a case-by-case basis. It's probably some of both. Although I've never been screamed at. I've never had that kind of an encounter. And I've had several very up-close and personal encounters that were pretty lengthy on two of them. I've never had any kind of an aggressive type behavior from them. But in my experience, when they're trying to warn each other that humans are around, from what I've experienced, it's been wood knocks. And, but I'm sure that's, I think they're so intelligent, I think it could really be anything with those screams or calls like that. They might be trying to communicate with each other over greater distances. They might be trying to work together and get prey animals moving in a certain direction, like deer or coyotes if they happen to hunt the coyotes. So, it's kind of a tough call to make it to to determine which it is, I guess you'd almost have to take it on a case-by-case basis. Now, I've read reports and talked to people that have been screamed at from a very close distance, and that was probably meant to scare them off. You know, that was an intimidation tactic, more than likely. But then again, it's just, you know, that's just my opinion, so it's hard to say.
Okay, there you go, Alley Cats. Got another question here, Mike, if you don't mind me asking this one real quick before it gets away. Boy, this chat room's just flying by tonight. This comes from Spin Dave, and let me see if I can just get back to this question here because my chat room's lagging pretty good. Where did it go here? He had a question about encampments, why we can't find, I guess, Bigfoot encampments. Let me try to find the exact question here. Let's see. I think I lost it.
I actually, I stopped the poll a while ago. I have it. I can read it here. Word for word. Yeah, this is from Spin Dave. He says, question, it is one thing to be elusive, but how do you explain the reason we cannot identify any permanent encampments of the Bigfoot family?
In my opinion, I don't believe they really have permanent encampments or structures. You know, they may make some temporary structures in a particular cold spell or rainy spell, but I don't personally believe that they actually build a permanent structure. They may probably take advantage of caves or overhangs of rocks or natural shelters. So I think that might be part of it, although I was talking to my friend up in Alabama today. They have found what they believe is a nest area in some planted pines, and he said it was roughly 10 foot long and about 8 feet wide. All the sticks and twigs had been cleaned out of there, and he thought that probably several, there had been several big armloads of pine straw brought in, so it's real fluffy, real built up. And over it, in the planted pines, there was a bunch of branches weaved in the trees going horizontal. So it led him to believe that, he knew it wasn't any kind of a deer bed or anything. It was much too big anyway, but with the addition of the branches through the trees, he thought that was some kind of a bedding area. So he was going to take some pictures and send them down to me, and I'll probably go up and take a look at it when I'm up there. But to answer the question, I don't think they really build, in my opinion, they don't build permanent structures. I think they're much too mobile for that. I think they're constantly moving around in different areas within their zone, their home territory.
All right. Fair enough. I would bet that that's probably a very likely scenario. I mean, I don't know that they would build a structure and stay in a structure in the same area year round. Anyways, a lot of people think that they if they don't truly migrate, which I don't think they do, they at least are nomadic within a territorial area, and they probably follow food supplies. So.
Yeah, that's what I believe. I think they have their home range. Compare it to maybe a black bear's home range or a wild hog. I don't know what the number is. Maybe it's 30 square miles, 50 square miles. It probably varies depending on terrain and food sources and water. And I'm sure they have their stop-off points at different day here, a day over there, a day over here, and it may be 5 or 10 miles apart, and they just wander throughout their little home zone. But that's why we do research, to try to find these things, try to figure out what they are up to and what they do. There's so much that we don't know, and that's all part of the research.
I mean, for all we know, their home range might be 100 miles. I mean, we don't know. They could be going.
And I think that's according to terrain or water sources or food sources.
Yeah.
So in areas where you have all those, plenty of food, plenty of forage, plenty of cover, plenty of water, it could very well be a smaller territory because they don't need to move as much. They've got everything right there. In other places, they may need to travel greater distances and have a larger home range, a home zone.
Right. No, I agree.
But,
I agree.
So much of that is just guesswork because we really don't know.
Nope.
Yes,
but
Ron, I do.
That's
Ron
that's why we get out there and get out there in the bush and get the boots on the ground, as they say, and try to get the answers.
Exactly.
I see Henry here on the switchboard, so let me pick Henry up here. Click him on.
Operating with you tonight.
Henry. There you are. There you are. Okay.
I was going to say, that's if the switchboard's cooperating with you tonight.
yeah. Well, I clicked it, and it didn't change. It left the symbol saying that you were muted, and then I clicked it again, and it went to the microphone, and it went back to mute for like a split second.
It does that.
Yeah. So I clicked it a third time, and here you are.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I wanted to ask Pat, so I want to say good evening to everyone. I wanted to ask Pat about, as far as, I'm pretty sure Florida gets quite a lot of rainfall. Over 20 inches of rain a year. John Green, of course, wrote about that in Sasquatch the Apes Among Us, about the fact that there are areas that get more than 20 inches of rain a year, if they get 20 inches of rain a year or more, they usually are the heaviest concentrated areas for sightings. Have you found that to be true in the state of Virginia? I mean, Florida. I'm sorry.
Florida? I would say that pretty much all of Florida gets more than 20 inches of rain a year. I mean, in the summertime we get that a month. But Florida's kind of a harsh environment. That we have a lot of forest lands and swamp lands, and I just don't think that the terrain is such that it supports the wildlife to the degree that it does in the northern state. And for example, you look at the deer in Florida, comparatively speaking, they're probably going to average maybe 140, 150 pounds, although there are larger ones. And then you look at white-tailed deer in the northern states, they're much bigger, much larger. So if you follow that, scenario, the ones I've seen here in Florida seem to be going lanky. It wasn't as deep or heavy. So I'm thinking that maybe the terrain, it just doesn't support the bulking up of the animals like it does in other climates. There's plenty of support.
And my second question is pertaining to the swampy environments. The sound is my niece's little toy, little game. That's what you're hearing, guys. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, turn it down a little.
Sorry about
that. Henry, there was a lot of guessing going on in the chat. People trying to guess who it was. I like this comment. I like this comment particularly from Spotto in the chat. He says, "Is Henry playing a harpsichord?"
No. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, my second question is pertaining to the swampy areas in Florida. As far as
I'm sorry.
You okay?
I'm okay. But anyway, pertaining to the swampy areas, as far as the swampy areas, I'm sure there's a lot of food resources. What kind of plant life is there in a swampy area for something like a Sasquatch?
Well, we're not preserving what they actually eat, but we have a lot of, course, pine, cypress. There's loblollies, there's wax myrtles, all kinds of different myrtle types, magnolias. And there's a lot of hardwoods, and a lot of those either produce small berries or nuts. Plus, we have a lot of wildlife, and I know it's true in other places too, but especially here in Florida, most of the wildlife seems to reside in the transition zone between the swamp and the high male at least, 5 or 6 different feet in elevation. But most of your wildlife is in that transition zone between the two. So, right around the edges of the swamp, between there and the highest pine, which would be pine trees and oaks, and, palmettos and things like that. So, there's plenty of wildlife there.
Now, what you said magnolia, right?
Sure.
What part of the magnolia do they eat? Do they eat the flower? Is there a certain part of it that they eat?
I have no idea if they even eat it at all. I'm just naming different types of plants and trees that we can.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They may eat it. I don't really know. But there's lots of plants that all the other animals forage on, and
right.
I imagine that forage on some of the same type of plants.
Mm-hmm.
We have deer, we have wild hogs, we have otters, we have snakes, we have alligators, we have lots of fish and crawfish, freshwater shrimp, and shellfish, and the list is endless. Now we have lots of invasive species like anacondas, pythons, and water monitor lizards, and I'm not really exactly what they do eat all the time, but I'm sure most of the things that I've named is.
Yeah. Now, if let's say that these things prey on perhaps poisonous snakes, would they have a problem with the venom in the poisonous snakes if they were to attempt to eat, let's say, a water moccasin or something like that?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I've say the same thing. I haven't eaten water moccasin, but I've eaten rattlesnakes. The meat's not good.
Right.
Hey, Henry?
Yeah.
You can't really hear anything with all that background noise. I'm going to have to mute you out.
I'm just to hang up anyway, guys. But thanks for taking my call, and sorry about all the background noise.
I'm sorry.
All right, Henry. Well, thanks for calling in anyways. Appreciate
no
it.
problem, guys. Y'all have a good one.
All right.
Take care.
All right.
Are we still there?
Yep, there he goes. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, it was getting pretty bad there.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't bad in the beginning. It was kind of subdued, but I don't know what happened. Whether the volume got turned up or Henry might be walking around getting closer to it. I don't know, but it just got pretty bad where I could barely hear anything on the show.
I thought he was chasing an ice cream truck down the street.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what a few people said in chat. People said Henry was I guess outside on a cell phone or a cordless phone chasing down the ice cream truck. Yeah. Eric, was there a question? I thought I saw a question or two in the chat.
Yeah, we got a question from Steve Squatch a little earlier. He wants to know, Pat, what is your theory on some Bigfoot stinking intolerably and other times there's no smell whatsoever?
Well, the only thing I can compare it to is people. I mean, if you look at, because I think they're very closely related to humans. As a matter of fact, I believe that they probably are human. But we can get into that later if y'all want to. But, maybe it's kind of an individual thing. I think maybe some of them are more prone to it, maybe because of diet or stress. I know if I'm stressed out or nervous and eat certain things, I probably smell a little bit more pungent than at other times. And I'm a pretty clean guy, so I know I don't really believe these creatures really bathe like we do, but in the warmer climates, I'm sure they swim for, just to cool off or to relax. So, that's almost, that probably washes a lot of the scent away, but it probably has to do with some with diet, some with stress, some with, just body odor, plain body odor. So I don't know. And that's another thing that we, as researchers, really need to try to find out one of these days. And if next time I have one in front of me, I'm gonna ask him.
There you go, Steve Squatch. That's all the questions I saw for the moment. I'm going back through to see if there's anything I might have missed, but I haven't seen anything since that one.
Yeah, the chat just gets going crazy, fast. And
I even have it on the scroll lock.
Exactly, and even then, what happens? I find with that all the time is once so much text goes past the point where you lock the scroll, right? It saves it. You could scroll up, but you know what happens? The scroll doesn't get smooth anymore. You try to scroll smoothly, and it kind of jumps. It kind of it doesn't go. You know what I mean? Like you'll see a question, and you try to scroll down to exactly where it is, and you'll go slowly down it. Next thing you know, it jumps, and you've passed it, and then you got to grab it at the bar and try to go back up. It gets nuts when there's a lot of volume. It just even with the scroll lock, it's not easy to get back to the questions. I get that all the time.
That's what happened to me earlier.
Yeah, it starts jumping around, and you're like, what happened to that question? And you were on it a second ago, and now you're trying to find it again. Yeah, it can be a bit much at times. Did you find the question? Otherwise, I can pick up another caller here.
Go ahead. I haven't found any other questions.
Okay. All right. Then we got two callers here, so let me pick that up, and let me throw out the number also for other folks if they want to call in. The call-in line, if you have a question for Pat or even myself or Eric, you want to call in for any reason, the call-in number is 347-237-5070. It's 347-237-5070. And let's see who we have here on the line. I'm going to pick this one up. This is the next one in line. I'm going to pick up this line, if it'll let me. Come on. I guess I'm going to have to click it again. Yeah, this board is not acting up tonight. Let's see. That's the second time. Okay, there it goes. 936, you're on the air.
Hello. How are you doing tonight?
Okay, who do we have here?
Hey, Laurie.
Hey, you have Laurie Phillips.
Hey,
how are y'all
Laurie.
doing?
All right, how are you, Laurie?
Well, I've been trying to get in the chat for like 30 minutes, and I haven't been able to get in there, so I have to call in my question. I hope that's okay.
Absolutely, no problem. Sure. Go ahead, go right ahead.
How are y'all doing tonight?
Oh, I'm just fine. How are the rest of you guys? You can answer for yourself.
I'm doing good, Laurie. Good to hear from you.
Good to hear from all of y'all, too. Hi, Eric. Hi, Mike. This is for Pat. Pat, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good.
Well, yeah, I think you're doing really good, too. You're doing a really good interview, so just wanted to tell you a great job. I have some questions for you. I told you I was going to have some for you there. Are you ready? Okay. When you're out in the field, what do you hope to achieve? What is your goal when you're out there?
Well, I guess two things. I mean, I've got quite a bit of money invested in video equipment and thermal imaging and a portable video recorder. And so I really hope to get, some definitive video, thermal if necessary, that can be analyzed and proven that these creatures do exist, and hopefully in the long run be able to have some laws passed to make it illegal to hunt them, shoot them, harass them, harvest them, kidnap them, whatever, capture them. I don't really believe that any extra land needs to be set aside for them because, let's face it, we can hardly find them now with all the land that's available for timber production, national forest, state forest, county forest. So I believe there's plenty enough land out there. I just think laws need to be passed to protect them and to keep people from, trying to harm them. So that would, I guess, be my first goal. The second goal is always, or maybe that's the second goal. The first goal is always just to enjoy myself. I like getting out there. I really get excited when I do have some encounter or indication that they're nearby through rock clicking and sometimes little grunts and growls, wood knocks, tree shaking, all those little things, eye chimes. And I just really enjoy that for just the fact of being out. I go out in the deep woods and camp out by myself most of the time, and I just love it. I just love being out there. I almost go through withdrawal after a week if I haven't been out.
Okay, I have one more question, then I'll clear the phone line. What would be the ultimate experience for you?
The ultimate experience?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've had a couple of very close encounters with the hairy kinds, and that was just phenomenal. So I guess I would love to be able to step that up a notch and have one or several of them be comfortable enough with my presence to actually come right up close to me, and to be able to, I don't know if they shake hands, but for them to be that comfortable where we could actually look each other eye to eye, and I could walk around them and really study the physique and how big they are, and maybe even communicate them closely, with them close, not too long distance or yelling off in the woods or talking off in the woods. So I would really like to have up close and personal experiences with them, and I think eventually it'll happen. The area I researched in Alabama, I've been working that area for almost 2 years now at considerable expense and time to try to have that group up there become comfortable with me. And, every time I go up there, I have encounters. They're nearby, and a lot of times I can see the eye shine or see some vague shape. And so I really hope to just try to promote that kind of a relationship with them and be able to document it, almost like that. Remember that guy up in that went up to Alaska, the bear guy? Of course, I don't want to be eaten.
The one that got ate up? Is that the one?
Yeah, I don't quite take it that far, but I'd love to have that kind of experience. Farms, though. So, does that answer your question?
That does. Thank you very much for answering my questions, and thank you very much for allowing me to talk this evening. And I'm going to go ahead and back out of here. Pat, doing a great job. Mike, Eric, y'all are doing a great job. It's a great show, and I'll go ahead and say goodnight.
All right, thanks, Lori.
Okay.
Thanks for calling in, Lori. If you want to listen to the show, I can just put you on mute, and you can just listen to the show.
Would you please? And
Absolutely.
If I have another question, I'll raise my hand. How about that?
That'll work just fine.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for calling. Put you on mute. Okay. All right. We have one more caller here. It looks like a Skype caller. And then I just saw the hand go up on the 304, so that's Nancy, so she has a question too. But Nancy, the Skype caller was first with the hand up, so let me take that. Eric, have there been any other questions?
Oh, yeah, there's several questions I have in the chat room.
Okay.
But go take the callers, and we'll get to those questions in a little bit.
Okay, as long as we don't lose them. Let me take the Skype caller first. Let's pick this up, see who this is. Skype caller, you're on the air. Sasquatch Watch Radio.
Hey guys, it's Alex, aka Midnight Walker. How are you?
Hey
Alex,
how are you, Alex? Welcome to the show.
Hey Pat, I've been listening to probably the last 45 minutes, and I didn't hear the first hour, unfortunately. So I don't know if I'm gonna tread on stuff you've already discussed, but
I've only been on for 45 minutes, so I think we've only been on for about 45 minutes, so I think you caught pretty much the beginning.
Oh, okay. I thought you guys came on a little earlier, so maybe I caught most of the interview then. Okay. Well, first of all, real quick, I wanted to add on sulfur. Sulfur repels bugs, and it also supposedly a good reptile repellent. So I find that there's always a rhyme or reason to everything that they do out there. And, of course, if you've got a furry body, you're going to smell a little bit. But I also think that they do use the things in their environment against bugs and other things. So
that's a good point. I think you're probably right, because
from everything that we know, I mean, there's been hair samples collected, and I've seen hair samples up close and have photographs of hair samples that myself and a couple other guys found in the Green Swamp, and it's definitely hair, not a fur. So that would kind of put them in a category more like human, I think, which,
I agree.
Hair, not a fur. And if you think about your dog, most dogs really don't sweat. Cats don't sweat. They all have fur. So I think, a lot of that is sweat and just build up, body odors as well. But I think you've got a good point with the sulfur, and you're probably right. I know down here the mosquitoes will just eat you alive, and if I lived out in the woods all the time, I'd probably want to find something to rub on myself to keep the insects away. And that, sulfur might be it. I know I've used camphor leaves, and that works really good down here. So you might have hit them really good.
Yeah, okay. Well, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is when you go out alone, you said that they come in close. I mean, do you talk to them, or how do you engage them? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I always talk to them. I wave at them, try to engage them in conversation. And I think that's probably why I've never been, growled at or screamed at or roared at, because I just kind of sit back and let things happen. I don't use a flashlight. I have a small flashlight if I need it, but I don't shine it out in the woods. I don't.
Right.
I don't set up game cams and things like that where it's almost like a trap for them, where they feel like I'm trying to pursue them. I don't run after them. I don't follow them. I just set up my campsite in the areas that I go to, and I know there's a lot of activity there because I've already scouted the area and I've been there numerous times, and I just try to make myself accessible. And when I do see them, I'll stand up and I'll take a couple steps closer. I'll wave directly at them. I look them right in the eye. I wave at them, and I talk to them just like you would a neighbor over the fence. I'm not.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't run a weapon in a Q-beam or a million-candle power flashlight, and I don't even run and get the camera. I don't want to point anything at them, but I do acknowledge their presence, and I try to let them know that I see them, and I'm okay with that. I'm cool with it, and it's always seemed to work out pretty good.
Now, you don't offer them food or anything, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Do you?
And I've tried other gifts like feathers and different items. And,
but do they take your food, or?
Well, not directly usually. Like up in Alabama, I always put a lot of times during the year I'll bring cantaloupes, watermelon, different tomatoes, different things, and I always put them out where they can find them, when they know it's in me. And they usually don't come up missing after I'm gone. A couple of guys will check a couple of days later. And then there's not too many creatures of the forest that can completely remove 2 or 3 full-size watermelons. I mean, if it was a deer or raccoons, they'd bust it up and eat it, but the lions might still eat it. So I try to pick items that I know I can eliminate anything else, like peanut butter jars with the lid screwed on as tight as I can make it. Well, down here in the Green Swamp, I can't tell you how many peanut butter jars have turned up missing, but I find the lid but no jar. And I know there's no way, there's no way raccoons can take it off, or turkey vultures or black bears. They would just chew it up. But you'd find the jar. And I find that the lid, it's not damaged. It's just screwed right off of the jar, and the jar will be gone. It's almost like they discard the lid because they don't have any interest or use for it.
Okay. Yeah, I do the same thing you do. I'll go out and they'll come around and all that stuff, and I tried putting some food out, and I thought they were taking it, but I wasn't sure, and I just didn't really know what to put out there. I haven't put peanut butter out, but
peanut butter works really good. And a couple of my friends up in Alabama started doing this. They take the jars of peanut butter and take the lid off of it, and then they use what a gutter spike is, like a huge nail.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll nail it to a tree 7, 8, 9 feet off the ground. And that eliminates deer. It won't eliminate raccoons or skunks, things like that. But what happens up there is after a day or two, the jar and the spike will be gone. There'll be 3 inches of nail in the tree. And for, you know, I've tried it myself, and let me tell you, you play hell to try to pull that thing out of the tree without a claw hammer or something. And you put it 8-9 feet up.
Those guys are strong as hell.
Oh, yeah. You can pretty much eliminate, you know, deer, hogs, raccoon, anything else out there by trying to, if you're going to put things out, put it in a fashion that you can eliminate anything else, because you're probably not going to find tracks. You're probably not going to watch who's doing it or, you know, what's doing it. But you can pretty much eliminate everything else by doing it that way.
Now, have they vocalized towards you yet? Have you heard them vocalize at all?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, other than, you know, like making animal noises, I mean, like trying to say something towards you.
Yeah. I've heard it.
What did it sound like, raspy and deep, or?
Yeah, it is. I've heard the 800-pound owl sounds, of course.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's not an owl, but I've heard the mumbling, talking. I've heard a lot of rock clicking and stuff, and you know, things like that too, which you can pretty much rule out mostly any other animal, of course, although you're not seeing what's doing it. The process of elimination, common sense tells you it's not a skunk doing that, you know, clicking rocks to you. So,
right.
You know, I mean, I hope I answered your question. But
yeah, no, I was just curious what you heard, because I've heard vocalizations, one, towards me, and it was a very raspy, deep vocalization. And I've also heard, you know, the mumbling and, you know, the same kind of vocalization that sounded more like it was amongst themselves than it was towards me. So I didn't know, you know, what you had heard or what it sounded like. I wasn't really questioning you or anything. I was just comparing more than anything.
No, sure, I understand.
Okay. Well, you know, I've kind of monopolized a few minutes, so I'll let you guys be. If you could just put me on hold, and I appreciate all your time.
All right. Not a problem. We'll put you back on mute. You can hang around and listen to the show.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for calling in.
Okay.
All right. Let me put him back on mute so you can listen to the show. Okay. Now, I saw Nancy's hand go back up here on 304, so let me pick her up. And then we're going to get to some questions, whatever questions you have in the chat, Eric. That'll clear the board here once we get Nancy on the board. All right. Okay, Nancy, 304. You're back on the air.
Okay, thanks. I just had one real quick question, and it was with the vocalization. Have you ever experienced the jaw popping that they do?
No, I don't believe I have.
The bonobos and orangutans and chimps make that popping sound. Have you ever experienced that?
No, ma'am, I don't think I have, not to my knowledge. And I've never been screamed at or roared at or, you know, had any kind of aggressive behavior either. And I really
well, that's actually a greeting. I talked to a primatologist, and they told me that was actually a greeting.
I see.
Because you seem to have friendly experiences with them, and I was just wondering if you might have experienced that.
No, I haven't. But you know, I might try it with one of them, you know, first. But I'd be more comfortable if they did it first. That way, I knew I wasn't challenging them to a fight.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was all I wanted to know. Thank you. I was wondering if you could please put me back on mute.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, sure thing, Nancy. We'll put you back on mute. You can listen in. Thanks for raising your hand with the question there. Okay, let me push back on mute. She could stick around and listen. Okay, Eric, let's get to some questions. I know you got a couple there.
Okay. First one, this is kind of a general question. It's not for any one of us in particular, especially being that Pat doesn't get much snow. But Spin Dave wanted to ask, if you find a Bigfoot print in the snow, is there any way to make a cast of the print?
Yes, I believe there is. I haven't done it in snow, but I've read that somebody else, and I don't remember who, described the way to do it as using aerosol hairspray. And you spray that in the track really good to stiffen it up and firm it up before you mix your casting medium, and then pour that in slowly. Depending on the casting medium, some of those actually create a little bit of heat due to the mix starting to cook off. So depending on what you're using, you have to be kind of careful. It's a chemical reaction when it starts to cook off. So, but I think by what I understand, if you spray it down with hairspray real good, and I don't know what kind works best, but that helps firm it up before you try to pour it.
Well, in the snow, they actually make a wax that you can spray. That's called I think it's called snow print wax or something like that. I forget the exact name, but like you say, Pat, it does give off heat when the stuff is mixed with water. All the I don't know about like plaster of Paris itself, but I know all the popular gypsum cements, which is what a lot of researchers use. Gypsum cements would be like your Hydrocal, your Ultracals. There's a 30 and a 60. There's a bunch of them. Dry stone. I don't know. There's probably half a dozen that are fairly popular that people use. I think even dental stone. I think any of those definitely heat up. When you mix it with the water, and something about that. If you put a good coating of wax down there, it'll help protect the edges of that print from melting out, because you can actually melt out the edges of the print if it gets too warm too quick.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking, because I use the dental stone, and it does create a little bit of heat. But down here, the heat isn't really a problem. So. But I remember reading that, and I don't remember where I saw that. Probably on a forum somewhere, and I don't know who to credit for that little tidbit. I don't remember who wrote it, but it seems like it would work. So maybe pack some of that in your backpack when you're out in the wintertime, along with your casting material. Yeah, the wax, the snow print wax, I think is what they call it for the winter, and hairspray is good for the warm weather when you have a track that's in sand. Because if you get like a super hold, like a real stiff hold hairspray, and you really saturate the track down good, it'll hold that fine sand in place enough, hopefully, that you can very carefully and very slowly pour your mix in there. And it's always a good idea to especially when it's a soft medium like sand, or really any time, but especially when you're dealing with sand, you want to do what they call a splash casting. You want to pour just a little bit, a tiny bit in an extra wet slurry. It's actually, you're going to mix it extra thin, not the normal consistency when you pour the rest of the cast. You want it as thin as possible, really, and just kind of coat the outer edge, go around the outer edge of the track, and then fill in the center, and with the real lightweight kind of mix, and then give that about 10 minutes to kind of set up a little bit, and then while it's setting, then you mix your regular mix a little thicker, a little normal consistency, and then you would pour that on top, and that preserves the fine details. It won't push out and destroy any of the fine detail in the track. Exactly. And that's probably the best way to handle that. Yep. Okay. Do we have any other questions, Eric?
Yeah, we got another question here from this gentleman's name is Mr. New York, and he would like to know, Pat, if you had the budget, would you rather have a night vision or a thermo?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I've budgeted quite a bit of money in the last several years, and I have 2 pair of Gen 1 night vision scopes, and I have a thermal imager as well. So the night visions came first, and then I invested in the thermal imager. So I hope that answers this question.
Okay. See if there's anything else here. Trying to scroll down through the chat room because it got kind of bogged up with all these other things going on. I don't see anything at the moment, but if I do, I'll jump in there and let you know. Yeah, it's going by at a pretty good clip tonight. And like I said, even when you stop the scroll, as you probably noticed, Eric, it's very jumpy. It's not a smooth, when you try to find a question and you're trying to scroll back up, it jumps all over the place for some reason when you have a lot of activity. There's a question on thin ice. Woman on thin ice is asking, what does the face of this look like? Well, I can't say that I've really seen a face other than in the dark, so I really can't answer that. But
if you read reports and talk to other people that have seen them, it seems to be about half and half. Some of them say apish looking, and the other half say human looking. So I guess it depends on maybe different areas of the country or the individual that you happen to see.
Yeah, well, that's like
Go ahead.
That's like some people will describe them as having the conical shaped head, kind of a pointed head, and other people will say no, they had a totally human, just kind of a regular dome shaped skull, just like a human. Other people will say that it appeared conical or kind of cone shaped, and you'll get varying descriptions. Some people will say the thing had no neck whatsoever. It just looked like a head sitting on shoulders, no neck visible really. Other people will say there was a neck. Some people say they don't see ears on them, when they did get a look at them. And so I guess it all depends.
I agree.
I think some people get a better look at them than others. Some people just get a real quick glimpse, and other people get a longer look. And, I think sometimes, like with the minor details like ears, if it's got a lot of hair on its head, maybe, the ears are kind of under the hair, so maybe they didn't take note of them. I mean, if a human's got long hair, and the hair is down, you don't see the ears necessarily, so. And you also have the people that say that the eye shine is red, and other people have said the eye shine is more like a yellowish orange, and then I've even heard some people say that it's like a green. So, hard to say, if there's what people are seeing, if there's actually different species out there, or if it's, trick of light and shadow, giving people what they think is a different view of the creature. A lot of your average sighting is only a couple of seconds, right? I mean, the most common sighting is like, 2 to 3 seconds, just a quick glimpse, really.
I think most of the time I've been fortunate several times to have it last well over an hour and a half on 2 different occasions. And
really?
Yeah, and it was phenomenal. The first time I ever saw them was really a life-changing event, and that was probably only 3 to 5 seconds. So when I was lucky enough to, I'm sorry?
That's the average, is that quick couple of seconds. That's what most people say. I mean, the most common sighting of all sightings is that road crossing sighting, when somebody's driving along a road and half the time it's late at night or very early in the morning and they're not really fully even paying attention. Maybe they're a little sleepy, and the next thing you notice, here comes this thing running across the road and, scares them half to death, and they get that real quick glimpse at it.
I agree. It seems to be the most common, the real short sightings.
I think we had another question or two in there in the chat.
I got another one here. This comes from VHEX. Wants to know, when you sense that you were near a Sasquatch in the woods, does it make you scared?
I wouldn't say scared. I do get a little nervous out there sometimes, because I'm usually by myself. I get a little apprehensive. But I kind of, I look at it in this way, that's the whole reason why I spend the money I do and make the time to go on these outings, go to different locations, is to have that kind of an experience. So I try to put that behind me, try not to act scared, and don't let it get get a hold of me, and just kind of enjoy the moment. And as I mentioned earlier, when I am seeing the eye shine, and I'm pretty darn sure that there's one close by, I'll usually, if I'm sitting or whatever, I'll stand up and I'll take a couple of steps closer, not in a threatening manner, but a little bit closer, and I'll wave at them, and I do talk to them. I say hello, I say, how you doing? It's okay if you come out. I don't have any idea if they understand me or not, but I just try to project that I'm aware of their presence, that I can see them, and I'm okay with that. And I just try to act calm and try not to act nervous. I don't run for a flashlight or a camera or anything like that. So, and I just go on about my business. I'll look over there as often as I feel like I want to, and I'll wave when I do, acknowledge their presence, And it seems to be working out for me. It may not be for everybody, but for me, that's the whole reason why I go, for exactly that kind of an outcome, and more if possible. So, and it's taken a little time to get, you really got to get a grip on yourself and really just will yourself to remain calm. And after a few times, it gets easier.
All right.
Okay, I got another question here, if we can ask it real quick.
Sure.
I think you've already covered this one, Pat, but Mr. New York wants to know, do you think that these creatures are more human or just an ape?
I believe, based on what I've seen and what I've experienced, they're very human. And I don't have any scientific evidence to back that up. It's just basically what I've seen, what I've experienced, and the things that I've heard. So I think they're very human, and I think when it's all said and done, they're going to be cataloged somewhere in between the great apes and humans, almost like a subspecies of humans. Now that's my opinion, and I can't back it up with any science right now. But that's the way I feel, and that's based on what I've seen and experienced myself.
Now, here's another question for you, Pat. Being that you just mentioned that, do you believe? I understand the whole like half human, half ape, but do you believe that, like some believe, that this is another species that developed along with man, but along a different evolutionary chain? It's kind of like a cousin to us, so to speak, related, but not exactly. And then there's other people that think that this creature might in fact be the missing link. That people have always talked about, the missing link. Some people feel that it is a direct descendant, some of man from way back. Do you think this was something that was actually more closely related to man as a missing link, or do you think this is just something that kind of developed around the same time as early man and just kind of went on its own path?
That's what I'm inclined to believe, that they probably developed alongside of humans, and somewhere way back in time, hundreds of thousands of years or millions of years, we were on the same branch of evolution as they are, or they were, or vice versa. And somewhere along the line, we went in separate directions, but somewhat parallel. And for whatever reason, our race, our species, humans, developed the way that we did. And they developed and evolved alongside of us, but a slightly different path. So, and really, if you think about it, I mean, we like to think of ourselves as the intelligent race and the only creature on the planet in God's image and all this. But here's another upright bipedal creature, animal, that has basically all the same attributes, except for maybe the reasoning and the technical aspects, but they have hands with 5 fingers. And if you read anything along with evolution, the human race developed their hands and their language when they went from walking on all fours and they rose up. That allowed the brain to sit atop the spinal cord and develop a larger brain cavity. And of course, with the hands developing with fingers, they could start to use them for other things other than locomotion. So it allowed the brain to grow bigger because it needed to control these new components, if you will. And along with that came language. So the difference, and I've heard these things talking, and I've heard quite a few recordings of, I'm not really sure what they're saying, but it's definitely language. So I believe that, they, in a roundabout way, they probably developed alongside of us for thousands and thousands or millions of years, and, all the Native American tribes talk about them. And why should North America be the only continent on the planet without a primate? a natural primate. If you throw humans out because we supposedly crossed over the land bridge, why would North America be the only continent on the planet without a primate? South America has them. Asia, Africa, Europe, they all have primates. So, I mean, to me it just makes sense. But, you know, we don't really know enough to be sure, but that's my thinking.
Right. Well, they say a lot of things cross over that land bridge, and if you listen to what some people say, just about everything that's here today came over that land bridge. So you have to wonder what was here in the very beginning, or was this just no man's land? You know, there was nothing here, and everything came over. You know, before the thing broke off and floated away. You know, when everything was all one giant continent.
And Pangea, I think it was called. And I agree with that theory. And I'm not a scientist, and you know, or an evolutionist, but that's my belief. And from what I've seen with, you know, they're highly intelligent and very calculating. It's not very often that they, you know, goof up and you catch them or you see them. You know, it's usually just a mistake, or they wonder where you were there. And it's like we discussed earlier, it's usually a very brief sighting. So I think they're very aware of when humans are around, and they communicate that to the other members of their group or the family.
Yeah, I think the only time that you really, you know, get a view of them, you know, get a sighting, is if you surprise them. They're not expecting you to be there for whatever reason, take them by surprise, or if they're actually curious, you know, maybe they hear people at a campsite, or they hear people talking, hiking through the woods, making noise, you know, maybe they're curious, so they get up to within viewing distance so they could kind of peek from behind a tree and get a look at these silly hairless apes that are walking by on the trail, you know, with their backpacks on. You know, so I think that's, you know, probably the two most common ways that people have sightings, that the creature is taken completely by surprise, or it's a curious thing. And then, of course, the third factor could be, you know, the few reports, there's not many, where they seem to be acting out in a territorial display, like maybe they're kind of angry that you're in their territory, and you know, that's not the vast majority of sightings, but there are some sightings to that effect, you know, tree shaking and projectile throwing, and, you know, perhaps they're you know, they let themselves be known when you're getting too close for their comfort.
Exactly, and I think it's all of those things. You know, it just depends on the situation. I saw a question that rolled through a minute or two ago, and I hope you don't mind, but I'm gonna go ahead and address it. It was from Spin Dave. He asked another good question, I thought. He asked, do you consider rock throwing by the Bigfoot a form of communication, or are they throwing to injure you? And I think there again, it depends on the circumstances. I think at certain times it may be you know, an intimidation tactic to either try to scare the heck out of you, or injure you even. Or it could be just another form of communication, if you will, because they're doing something to alert you that there's another presence there, whether you realize it's a Bigfoot or not, and they want to gauge your reaction. You know, you almost have to think of them as a teenager sometimes, you know, playing pranks. Like, you remember when you're all kids, you'd ring the doorbell and run, you know? And because I've had them come up to my trailer at night and shake my trailer when I'm sound asleep. You know, and I start looking through the thermal imager, and I can't see anyone out there, nothing. And, you know, I think they've either run off or they're hiding. And I think they just do it, you know, it's almost like doorbell ringing. It's just to get in that reaction and playing you know, either messing with you or just to gauge what you're at. Are you going to come out with a shotgun and a spotlight, or are you just going to, you know, not react to it at all? So I think that, you know, you got to almost take it on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I think in some cases, like you say, you know, maybe they're just, you know, trying to provoke a reaction in you, and they want to see, do you seem, you know, dangerous in your reaction to what they're doing, or do you just seem curious, and then they would deem you probably not a threat or something, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, like you said, people have mentioned, you know, trailers being shook. creatures slapping the side of their house, or a trailer too, whatever people were in, or a car even, something kind of whacked the side of it.
On windows. I mean, you've read those in reports, and that happens quite frequently.
Yeah.
They run across your roof at night. And I know personally some people where that's happened. So I think a lot of that is just game playing or trying to get a reaction out of you to see what you'll do.
Now if at least, let's say at a minimum, 400 to 500 pound creature, I would think, and some people say some of these things they estimated more like 900 pounds, maybe close to 1,000 pounds. Now, if one of those things would run across somebody's roof, you figure, why couldn't we be lucky and have somebody with a real bad, faulty roof? Now that the thing would just fall right through and right into somebody's living room. Why couldn't we get that lucky?
I know it. Have them stuck half in and half out, and you could pluck a few hairs off their feet, while they're dangling.
Yeah, hair sample, or maybe he gets cut by a nail or something. You get a little trickle of blood there, something. Why couldn't you have one fall through? Probably get the DNA you need, and not to mention you get a real close look at one whether you wanted it or not, as it falls into your living room as you're sitting in your recliner watching the tube.
Yeah, I agree. Seems to never happen that way, does it?
No. Eric, do we have any other questions in the chat?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them here.
Well, let's try to rip through as many as we can. I don't see any new callers on the line, just the same callers that are hanging on to listen, and we got about 8 minutes of the show left, so let's rip through as many as we can.
Okay. Allie Katz wants to know, don't you think the difference could be different breeds of Bigfoot, like in animals or races and humans, thus the different looks?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like people. Nobody looks alike unless you're a twin. So I think, there might even be 2 or 3 subspecies. Some people say that down in Florida here it's a skunk ape, and it's slightly different. And then the ones in other parts of the country are different from the ones in the Pacific Northwest, or take it even further, even different than a Yeti or a Yowie, or name anything else. But, yeah, I think there's probably several. I mean, I think they all look a little bit different and have different personalities, and they're going to react to certain things in a different way. I think they're very individual, like people, or like a lot of other animals.
Okay. VHEX asks a question, when you sense you're near a Sasquatch, how do you keep yourself under composure? Aren't you scared, especially when it's dark out?
Yeah, a little bit. I've gotten more and more comfortable with it as time goes by. But I spend a lot of time out there, a lot. Probably more so than, almost anybody else that I can think of. And I'm really not trying to brag. I'm just trying to be honest. I spend a lot of time out in the forest, in the woods, out in different states and different locations. So it takes you a while to really get used to it and get out of your comfort zone and be out there and relax and learn to just chill out and take it as it comes. It's something you got to work at, and I certainly have worked at it. I've had to work at it.
Okay, trying to scroll through this chat room. It does jump around quite a bit.
Yeah. I know. I know firsthand.
You got to love it, especially when there's 50-plus people in the chat room tonight, so it's kind of hard to keep up with everything.
Well, like I said, the further you get past where the question was when you lock the scroll, it's harder and harder to control smoothly and to scroll right to the question. It just jumps around on you.
Yeah. Well,
okay, here's another one.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say this comes from Spin Dave. He wants to know if you are acknowledging that the Bigfoot have a sense of humor.
I'm not really sure, but I suspect they do. I really do.
Okay. From Midnight Walker, he wanted to know, are you using night vision or thermal when they come around to you at night?
Thermal. What I do is set my equipment up when I first get there, or even before I get into to my area, and that way it's as unobtrusive as possible. And I leave it running all night, record all night, The problem is it doesn't see 360 degrees in every direction. It only picks up video in the direction that it happens to be pointing in. So there's been several times when I've had pretty good activity going on, and I can see them in plain sight, but my equipment happened to be set up in a different direction, and I wasn't really able or comfortable to jump up and start fiddling with stuff because I didn't want to run them off. So it's you know, if I had 3 more cameras, with a total of 4 of them, I could have video going in every direction of the compass. So it's really the luck of the draw, what it happens to be pointing at when you have activity. And other times I'm asleep, and I don't know what's going on, or I wake up and know what's going on. I figure out, you know, here's something. I wake up, and I'm looking, and I haven't really gotten some good, clear video yet. I've got several blob squatchy videos, but, you know, it's kind of a luck of the draw. Which direction is it pointing when they happen to come in?
That pretty much answered Mystery Incorporated's question. He or she wanted to know if you're able to spend extended amounts of time observing Bigfoot. How come you don't have better pictures or video?
Yeah, and it's tough. Anybody out there, you can tell you, you know, I mean, just look. There's not many good videos or photos out there. Most of them are blog squatches because of that. I think they're smart. They utilize all the cover, and they're extremely well suited to the environment. They're the ultimate, you know, night or woodsman. You know, they're just the ultimate out there.
I think what people fail to realize is, you know, Bigfoot's not just going to walk out of the trees and stand there and pose for you for 30 seconds while you focus on him and get him right in the exact lighting, and you know, make sure your flash is on. And, you know, people just seem to think that, you know, oh, they're going to come right out and you can take a good, clear photo. These things are smart enough and intelligent enough that, you know, if they are going to come out into the open, it's only going to be for a second or two, and you're going to be lucky enough you get a good look at them.
Exactly. I mean, for example, here I was in a place in Mississippi, some people I had befriended, and they have 60, 70 acres of property around the house, and a good bit of it is field, real pretty place too, and a lot of it is planted pines and forest, hardwood forest, and they have a lot of activity up there. So I was there one time with another researcher from Oklahoma, Old Crow, maybe some of y'all know him, and we were out there. We had a little campsite set up, and I had my thermal imager set up earlier, but then we had storm warnings coming in, and we were under tornado watch, and it was really super windy, clouds rolling in. So I took all my equipment down, and we really thought we were going to have to run for the house. You know, we're camping in tents, and we stayed out there all evening. We figured, well, we'll wait until it rains and see how bad it gets. Well, I had packed all my equipment, my thermal imager, my portable DVR, night vision, everything was packed up and locked in the truck, so I didn't have to worry about trying to get it together when the storm hit. And we were expecting tornadoes. Well, you know, luck of the draw. Eddie the Yeti came charging through the woods, breaking stuff and breaking trees and branches, and then it got quiet for a few minutes, and there he was, standing right there, plain sight. And then after half an hour, I mean, he was there the whole time, and we're talking to him and waving at him. And then after a half an hour, 45 minutes, what I'm assuming was the rest of the family group. There was probably 4 or 5 more that came up out of the woods from behind him and stood alongside of him and around him for another half an hour or so. But I had all my equipment all broke down and packed up. So, you know, I would try to learn a lesson from that. Now I have my equipment up, and I have it in a waterproof housing, so it's always up and ready to go into action. So, you know, there was a prime opportunity to get a whole family group for extended viewing. And yet, you know, just due to the weather, you know, I mean, that equipment is real expensive, and I was in a little flimsy tent, and I just put it all away before that happened, several hours before it happened. So,
hey, guys, we're down under a minute right now. We're down to about 50 seconds before we lose the live feed and go off air. Pat, I hope we can get you to stick around for just a few minutes after we lose the live feed, just to wrap it up and chat with you. I really can't wrap it up in 30 seconds we're down to now. But for the folks that are going to lose the live feed, I just want to say thanks for joining us tonight on Sasquatch Watch Radio. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will be back again, hopefully with Billy Willard back with me next Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, once again for the Sasquatch Watch Radio show. I want to thank Eric Altman for being here tonight with me, helping out with the questions. Appreciate it, Eric. I'm sure Billy does as well. And as I said, Pat, if you could just hang on, we'll chat after we go off the air.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, and there we go. We've just lost the live feed. Okay. So, all right. Was that all the questions that were in chat, Eric?
Yep, that was it.
Cover them all?
Pretty much all I saw.
Yeah, I know sometimes it's hard, and you might have missed one or two. I mean, sometimes people leave them in small lowercase letters, and the way that the chat screams by, you may have missed one. But if we did, we apologize. We do try to get all the questions answered as long as we can see them. But that's why we ask for folks to put them in all caps. Makes it much easier.
Yeah, I think what I do is I try to copy them, and then paste them into a Word document off to the side, so I don't have to worry about the scroll. And then that's what I was doing here at the end. I don't know if you guys have ever.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea, because the scroll does jump around on you, and even when you lock the scroll up, it's as Eric will tell you, I'm sure he had that tonight. I saw that the way that the chat was ripping by, and it's very hard to smoothly scroll back to the question, and as soon as you let go of the scroll bar, it'll jump on you, and then you lost the question again.
I wish they'd make that chat, bigger, where you could make it take up a whole page or something, but it doesn't.
Yeah, no. But, well, hopefully we got everybody's questions asked and answered, we hope. And if not, we apologize. We had some good callers tonight. Folks they're still on the line, I guess. Looks like they haven't hung up yet, but they were. I think if they're on the line, they could probably still hear the show. I think they get to hear the feed after it, even after it cuts live, I believe, on the phone. Not sure, but in any event. Okay, so
but did you guys have questions?
Well, the only thing I wanted to ask, I mean, I saw we were running low on time, and I know we had a lot of questions that were still in the chat, so I wanted to get all those folks' questions in first and stuff. But I guess I could ask, I mean, what are your plans in the next, upcoming couple of months coming in the spring and summer? But is there any particular expedition you've been on in the last year, that was particularly fruitful for you? And who have you been out researching with? I know, some people that you go out with, but I mean, you do go to different areas, so I'm not sure. Maybe you go out with different. Do you go out with groups, or is it more or less just individual researchers?
It's usually just a handful of a couple of researchers from different areas. I've been fortunate to be able to meet, quite a few people due to the internet and different forums over the last couple of years. Made some pretty good friends, made some good contacts in, Oklahoma, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, to name a few of the places that I go to in different areas in those states. And so some of the places I go to are actually private residents, where they may have, quite a bit of acreage and they have activity at their own place. So I'm not really in a national forest or not. Other times it's a national forest or a state forest. At other times, like my place in Alabama that I go to is several thousand acres of private land. And there's no houses or, there's a bunch of dirt roads, no logging roads and stuff through there in the lake. And
that's where I go there, and I've gotten to know a lot of the local folks up there. And let me tell you, the people in Alabama are just the nicest folks you ever want to meet. I'm serious, far more. And when I'm heading up there, in particular, two of my good friends out there, Mark and Keith, when I'm coming up that way, they'll take time out of their busy schedules. They both have families and jobs and all. They'll cut a load of firewood and haul it up there in their truck and dump it right where I'm going to camp. I mean, these guys are just phenomenal. I mean, they're the nicest folks you ever want to meet, And just love going up there, and it's beautiful. I camp by a little lake most of the time, and I got the place all to myself. You know, there's people in and out throughout the evening. They usually stop by the camp and hang out with me, and a lot of times they get to experience this stuff right alongside with me. And it's really cool, especially when, you know, some of these guys, they've lived in the woods their whole life hunting and fishing and never had any kind of encounter, and they're curious, but they don't really think, I've been out in the woods my whole life, never seen anything. I think y'all are full of it, but, you know, they come and hang out and just hang out. And several of them have had some pretty interesting stuff happen to them just hanging out with me. You know, we don't really drive around a lot or go chasing them or go calling. We just kind of hang out and let them come to us, and it's really cool to see them kind of get their eyes open, you know. And after a while, they're like, I don't know what that was, but I know it wasn't a coyote or a bear or a deer, you know. And you start to see those light bulbs going off above their brain, you know, like in a cartoon. They start realizing that what we're talking about or what we're seeing is real, and they're really here.
Yeah.
That's kind of a lot of.
Now, I know earlier in the show that you mentioned that you go out by yourself quite often in the field. I mean, personally, I don't recommend that to pretty much anybody. I mean, it's you know, a lot can happen in the woods. You know, when you're by yourself, it's probably not the safest thing to do. But you know, as long as you're real careful, I guess some people could handle it. But my question to you would be, do you find when you're by yourself, do you think that, in your opinion, do you notice that you tend to have more things happen when it's just you versus, say, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 other people with you? Like, is it, you know, by yourself, do you think that the creatures are more likely to come closer to have a look, or, you know, or does it matter, or will they still come if there's a group of you?
I think it does matter, and I think it's a matter of safety. Let's just say there's 2 of them, and a lot of times there'll be 2 or 3. I'm seeing indications that maybe there's 2 or 3 of them. I think for the most part, if you're with a group of people numbering 4 or less, your chances are much better at seeing them up close and having some kind of an interaction with them, either seeing them or hearing them or smelling them up very close in a relaxed setting, as opposed to a group of 20, 30 people or whatnot. Because there's just, you know, it's too easy for them to get caught with that amount of people, and it's a lot more dangerous for them. There's too many people to keep track of. You know, people are leaving and going off in the woods. They have to relieve themselves, or they're walking around, and they don't know if any of them are weapons.
Yeah, no, I agree if it's like 20 or more, but I'm saying, like, if it's the difference of yourself versus, say, a group of, you know, 5 to 6, you know, less than 10, let's say, maybe 6 or 7, you know, do you really notice much difference? Because I've had people say to me that they think it's best if you research, like, just with a partner, like just 2 people go out, maybe 3 at the most, and there's some people that don't want to have even 4 or 5 in a group. They want to be just 2 people or just 3 people, and that's it. And some people believe that that they get, you know, more chance for success that way versus, you know, 6 or 7. Personally, I don't know that it makes that much of a difference. It's only another 2, 3 people. But certainly if it's like 20 people or 30 people, absolutely, that for sure I would think would definitely, you know, put them off some, would make them think twice about approaching. But, I mean, do you really think that an extra 2 or 3 people in a group makes much difference?
I do. I think less is better. But the hard thing is, I mean, at least for myself, when I'm getting ready on making a trip somewhere, usually I got, you know, the week or 2 leading up to it, I'm trying to do a lot of extra work to try to, in order to take time off, and then I got to scurry around and go through all my equipment, break it all down, make sure it's clean, everything's charged up, everything loaded, packed, gassed up, trucks, you know, get tuned up and the oil change, and so I'm pretty well wore out, and then I may drive 8 hours straight. So by the time I get there, I'm whooped, you know, and usually the first night or 2, I have a hard time staying up past 11 o'clock or so by myself. You know, so it's nice to have a couple people around to talk to and kind of keep you alive, so to speak. But I do enjoy going out by myself as well. And when I go up to Alabama, usually a couple of the guys will be hanging around throughout the evening, and by midnight or 1 o'clock, they'll leave. They'll go home because they're 10 miles away. So then I'll usually sit out for another hour or two, and usually that's when I really start seeing stuff going on, and hearing stuff. I think they creep in a lot closer as it gets quieter like that, and there's less people.
Right, but what you're saying is you do have company through the night until a fairly late hour, and then they go home for the night, and you just basically there overnight by yourself. But you're not there. You're not saying, or maybe you do. I don't know. I mean, do you go like for 3-4 days just by yourself into the woods? That's what I kind of meant before.
Oh yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's relaxing. I enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah.
I just have a great time out there by myself. I spend my days, I charge up all my batteries and make some coffee and stuff in the morning, wake up, and, after an hour or two, I'll take off hiking and walking and maybe do a little drive and leave the area and go exploring. And then come back and try to catch a nap in the afternoon. And that's all hard to do with a bunch of people around,
Yeah.
So I get a lot of quiet time, and I really enjoy it. I mean, I don't get bored with it, by myself like that. It's kind of nice and relaxing.
Yeah. I guess if you're a real outdoorsman and you've been out there your whole life and you really know the woods and what to avoid and what to watch for, I guess you could do it. But I think on the whole, your average, part-time researcher that is not in the woods a vast majority of their life, I would think it's probably not the best of ideas for the semi-novice, let's say, woodsman, to be out there alone. There's just so many things that can go wrong, and especially if you're not a true woodsman, you don't really know exactly what dangers to watch for, and something could happen that you're not expecting, and let's face it, cell phones don't work in most locations, and you twist an ankle or break a leg or something, you might have a real problem.
Well, that's true. And last summer, I'm not sure if you're aware of it or not, but last summer I had a heart attack. And I didn't realize it, but for about 2 weeks I was having several episodes leading up to that and didn't realize that's what it was. And 2 days before I had the real heart attack, I was just up there in Alabama for about 5 days straight by myself. I was out there chopping wood and hiking up and down mountains and out there in the heat, and didn't realize that that's what was happening to me. So, it is better to have at least another person with you, but what the hell?
Yeah, well, thank God, you weren't in the woods when something like that would happen. But that's what I say. Most cell phones don't work in the woods, although nowadays they have those spot beacons and those GPS, basically GPS SOS, devices that you can basically hit a button and send a distress call out. But I would definitely recommend the average person, if they're going to go out alone, they should have something like that. But I just kind of I try to discourage most people because it's just the average person. Like I said, the semi-novice really should not be out there alone. I don't believe it.
I agree.
Too many things that can go wrong. Eric, did you have any questions?
Nope. Just kind of hanging out here listening.
All right. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have any last-minute questions there.
Nope. Just enjoying the conversation.
All right, my friend. Just checking. Okay, I'm trying to think. There was one more question I was going to ask, but I just when I just took that brief moment to talk to Eric, it's just right out of my head now.
I have that effect on people.
Yeah. Like I said before, I was trying to get all the questions asked from chat, so I was trying to withhold my class. I probably should have wrote them down. Probably would have been a smart thing, but of course I didn't. So. I was going to ask Pat, what do you have upcoming in the next, say 3 to 6 months? Is there anything that you want to speak about, or is there anything you want to plug? Are you going to be, involved with any, special, expedition? Are you going to be at any conferences? Anything you want to plug or talk about? by all means.
Well, I've never been to any of the conferences. There's a couple I'd like to go to, but it seems like they're so far away. But as far as any outing stuff, this weekend I've got plans to go off to the Green Swamp. There's a pretty good sized, loose-knit group of independent researchers down here in this part of the state, and I think I'm probably going to head over there with a couple of them in the Green Swamp this weekend. Hunting season just got over, so it'd be a good time to start getting out there because all the hunters are gone now. And the problem with the Green Swamp is half of it is underwater management district management, and they've got every square foot of their share of it behind gates and locks and fences, lock gates and fences. And the only way you can really access that is to walk in. They have a couple of campgrounds that you can reserve a permit for free, but according to their literature, you're only supposed to drive from the gate to the campground, and that's it. You can't go and do anything else while you're there, at least not by vehicle. So it kind of puts a damper on things. But the north half of the Green Swamp is actually the Withlacoochee State Forest, and that's not gated or locked or fenced. And I prefer a little bit more up on that side because you're not hampered by gates and all. You can pretty much just run the roads and go anywhere you want. You're not allowed to camp. That's a problem. But every once in a while, I'll sneak in there with my little trailer, and I'll get way back out, 5 or 8 miles back in off the hardtop and the blacktop road, and find me a little out-of-the-way place to camp and, just do some exploring, do some camping, and during the day get out and do some hiking. Every now and at night, I go off and do some hiking a little bit, too, at night. And it's just good for the soul, even if I don't have anything happen, and have a real good time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. I love to get out just for the hiking and camping aspect of it, and if you find something or something happens, that's just a bonus, you know what I mean? I mean, you're out there looking, but I'm just saying, even if nothing else happens, like you said, if it's a totally zero activity trip, you don't even find tracks, zero, nothing. It's still it's just a weekend or a couple of days away from the hectic life you lead, and it's just relaxing, and you're out with good friends, and you're just enjoying a camping trip if it boils down to just that. But even that's a great thing.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe in about 3 weeks, I was going to be heading back up to Alabama again. We got some unique stuff happening up there, pretty much always. But we've got a couple new members of the club up there, the Hunting Leaf, and one of them's an older gentleman that's been hunting and fishing his entire life, and he's a new member up there. And he's had several encounters while he's been up. This is his first year with us. He's had several encounters up there, including several nighttime visitations around his little pop-up trailer. He doesn't camp by the lake that I do, but he camps in a different area. And he's been seeing eye shine, 20, 30 feet away at night. He's seen shadows walking past, passing past his pop-up trailer in the dark, with just the moonlight, and it'll cast a shadow against the side of it. And he's in a little camp, pop-up camper. His wife was in a hunting house, one of the little shooting houses, and something was walking up behind her on 2 legs, and it really spooked her pretty bad. It was just about dark. But he's taken a real interest in it, and he's really excited about trying to track these things and having more experiences with them. And then there's a group of 3 younger guys that are in college, and they're new this year, and they've been doing some camping up there too. And no one's really told any of these folks, what goes on, and they just figure, well, something happens, and they ask us, we'll tell them, but we're really not just going to volunteer it. So these 3 young guys have been up there camping and hunting this winter, and they come up on the weekends because they're all in college. Real nice bunch of guys, too, just real nice young men. And they've been seeing the same thing. They've been seeing the eye shine at night. They've been getting real scared and nervous, and when I was up there last, they all hopped in one truck and came barreling across the property over to my place where I was at. And they all three of them jumped out and run over to my campfire. Man, what's going on? You know, we've been seeing these things walking around over there in the trees by us. See the red eye shine, and what's going on over here? And, you know, so we finally spilled the beans to them. And now they're real excited too. They just want to have experiences. They're a little nervous. Don't get me wrong, but they've been talking to them and waving at them like I told them that, you know, that's what I do. Just relax, they're not going to hurt you. And so now they're trying to offer them beer and stuff. You know, they stand up and say, "Here, you want one?" And, you know, they leave a beer out for them and stuff. So it's really kind of cool to see people that have no idea these things ever existed, and they've been hunting their whole life. And now all of a sudden they're confronted with reality. Here they are, right in front of them. And you know, it's kind of neat to watch them come full circle in their thinking. And they're nervous and they're scared, but they're willing to give it a chance and, you know, not run out there with a flashlight or a gun and just sit back and let things happen. So it's really kind of cool. It's almost like watching, you know, kids come up, growing up and discovering things. So I'm enjoying the heck of it up there.
Well, I wish you the best of luck on all your expeditions that you go out on, and it's about 10 of the hour, so I think we're going to wrap this up. Not to mention, I think my phone is dying on my end. I think the battery was just beeping at me, so I want to call this. So, but I want to thank you very much for being on the show tonight on behalf of Billy Willard and myself and Eric Altman. Eric, it was great to have you with us tonight, and you helped out a lot with the questions. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Pat. It was nice to finally talk to you.
Yeah, you too. It's been real nice, and I appreciate you both having me on, and I wish Billy could make it, but, you know, there's always next time. I hope he feels better.
Yeah, hopefully he'll be back next week, next Monday, I'm hoping. And if not, you know, so be it, but at least I'll have a little more forewarning. At least I'll have a little more heads up time. But great to have you on the show. Good talking with you. And, you know, maybe we'll have you back again on Billy's show. And if not, we'd certainly like to have you back on Bob and I's show on the Bigfoot Quest sometime. So always
that sounds good. Maybe I'll drop you an email after I get back from Alabama just to let you know I'm back and give you a synopsis of what's happened up there.
Sure. Yeah, I would love that. We always like to talk to the researchers that are out there in the field, you know, getting it done, trying to get an answer, trying to get to the bottom of what's going on with this whole Bigfoot mystery. So once again, thanks for joining us, Pat, and we wish you the best in all your research. And if you ever get to a conference, maybe we can meet sometime. I don't get to a whole lot myself because a lot of them are on the West Coast, but I guess probably the closest for you would be either Texas or Ohio. It's probably the two closest conferences.
Yeah, I almost went to the one in Texas last year, but I just, you know, had other things going on and just didn't work out for me. But maybe Ohio. That'd be a nice trip. I've got some contacts in North Carolina that I'm being invited to come up and research in their areas with them, and just haven't made the opportunity. So maybe I'll plan a trip around the conference and, you know, stay for a night or two in North Carolina on my way up and back.
Yeah,
get some research.
That would be great because, I mean, Don, from what I hear, Don puts on a great conference. I haven't been able to get to it myself, but I'm going to make every effort to get there this year. He's having a good lineup of guests, including none other than Bob Gimlin, who's supposed to be on hand and possibly give a short, you know, presentation himself. So that would be great.
That'd be great. When is that? What month is that?
That's in May. That's in May. I believe it's the 14th to the 16th. I think it's that weekend. The conference is on the Saturday, which I believe is the 15th, but they have like a meet and greet the night before, and then Sunday they have like kind of a field trip of sorts where they take people to sighting locations in the area and you know, just take them to the locations where sightings have been and tell them about the sighting, the encounter. So, but the actual conference I believe is the 15th of May.
No, I'll have to mark my calendar. Maybe I can put something together.
Yeah, well, that'd be great. It'd be great to maybe meet you someday. Like I said, I'm going to be there one way or the other. I'm going to really give it give it a try to be there this year. Last year I wanted to go, but things just didn't work out. But come hell or high water, I'm going to attempt it this year. And Eric, I know you haven't really discussed any future plans for a conference. Any chance that you might have one in the future, or think pretty much done with it?
I don't know. I get bugged constantly about having another one, but right now things are so crazy up here with all these sightings that are coming in and doing field research. I'm enjoying it, so I'm just kind of putting the conference on the back burner. Maybe in a couple of years I'll do another one, but I'm enjoying the field research right now.
Yeah, no, I can't blame you. And you guys had a ton of activity this year to investigate. You have no shortage of reports, so I can't blame you there. But you always put on a top-notch conference. The one I went to was great, and hopefully at some point in the future you'll have another one. So. Yeah,
I probably will. Just not for a couple of years.
All right, fair enough. Well, I would definitely enjoy coming down again if you have another one. All right, I guess that'll wrap it up for tonight. Again, thanks, Pat Rance, for joining us tonight, and Eric Altman for helping out with the questions. And on behalf of Billy Willard and myself, thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will catch you next Monday night again, 9 p.m. Eastern on Sasquatch Watch Radio. Good night, folks.
Good night.
Thanks,
Good night,
guys.
everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Take care. Bye.
This will be your year, and it starts at Laurel Ridge. You've had a taste of the real world, and now you want more. With the right training, degree, or certifications, you'll have more skills, more earning power, more opportunities in industries that are just waiting for you. Welcome to the year of you. This is your time at Laurel Ridge Community College. Visit laurelridge.edu/pathways. That's laurelridge.edu/pathways.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.